I think I'm going to get started. So welcome to Netcapital Advisors webinar series on women in private equity. It's been so gratifying to facilitate and moderate these panels of amazing women. We are discussing and tackling topics like trusting our gut, dealing with rejection, how to say no, and other topics we feel are important, provocative, and relevant. We have found they provide a much needed oasis from the noisy and chaotic world by providing authentic, open-hearted dialogues. Today's topic is mentoring. I still, as I said, think of September with that back to school mentality, right? Like time to refocus, you know, after the wide open, long days of summer. And so now that many of us are so deeply entrenched in this cadence of like year-long work, right? Not just kind of disappearing during the summer when we're in school and then coming back, we're working year-long. So, and when we were trying to figure out what would be the best topic for the back-to-school feeling, mentoring was the resounding winner. I really was trying to reflect on what mentoring meant to me, like, or what are the words that would describe a mentor? And I really think it's someone who helps shape you, right? Or someone who influences you or guides you, trains you, advises you. How about sharing their learned wisdom, right? I mean, that's really an amazing gift from a mentor. Someone who coaches you, and then also somebody who offers a role model. And I'm sure there are many, many more, but those are the ones that just, you know, flowed through my pen. I'm still a pen on paper person. And so in creating the panel, I wanted women who have become mentors and to learn what informed them to become mentors. Because in my own stories, I really never had a mentor. And and as I reflected throughout my, kind of career, my adult life, I thought, gosh, I really wished I'd had somebody in my high school years and college years, and certainly, going to Wall Street, and in the at a time when women were still dressing like men. I mean, I still laugh about my Harvey Bernard suit. that looked like a square box, basically, with those silk bow ties. I mean, it was not a good look. Anyway, it's just so great now to certainly there was a period then when it feels like women kind of took the reins and started, kind of expressing themselves with their clothes to be beyond men. So that's actually great. So anyway, I have had a fascinating path and a career thus far, but I left myself with a question before I started this: is where would I have been if I had had a mentor, right? I mean, isn't that an interesting question? So more now than ever, I feel like we need to mentor women and even men, and we need to share our earned wisdom, but also our hearts, right? Because I really think that that's just as important as our wisdom. Our panelists, I believe, became mentors for many of the same reasons I have. But before I introduce them, I really want to introduce you to me, and many of you know who I am. I'm Carole Murko, the Chief Marketing Officer of Netcapital Inc. and Netcapital Advisors. We are a 3-women C-suite with Cecilia Lenk as our CEO and Corinne Chrysler as our CFO. Cecilia will be joining us. Hey, Cecilia.
Hi.
At the end of the webinar, she's my closer with some closing remarks. And unfortunately, or fortunately, Corinne couldn't make it because she's in an investor presentation right now. So that's always good to have those going on. Netcapital Inc. is a digital private equity ecosystem focused on the democratization of the private equity markets. Our company has its roots in the Jobs Act, which is Jumpstart Our Business Startup Act, which was passed in 2012 to enable job creation by easing some securities regulations to encourage small business funding. Netcapital.com is our digital equity funding portal, which is SEC registered under under Regulation CF, allowing non-accredited investors to invest in private equity, an asset class which until 2016 was not available to them, and it was only kind of available to the accredited investors. And by the way, accredited investors can also invest through the platform. Netcapital Advisors is the part of the ecosystem that provides consultant services to entrepreneurs as they prepare to raise capital on the platform. We also incubate companies and we provide valuable investor introductions. Netcapital Inc. is publicly traded on the OTC as NCPL. Cecilia, Carole, and I are here to celebrate women. We're here to celebrate women in private equity specifically. And we've designed these webinars so that we can gather women and really open up conversations that don't generally happen when we're talking about finance, right? Or private equity. We want to talk about topics that are heart-centered, paradigm changing, and also giving permission to other women and other folks, including men, because I'm sure some of you are in the audience, to feel free to openly discuss these topics. All right, so before I read the formal bios, I wanted to tell you why I selected each of these panelists to join us. It's just such an amazing, diverse panel. I asked Debbie Wave, to join us because she mentors women manage their money. Okay, how important is that? I asked Lisa because she, not only actively creates mentor programs in the organizations where she works, but she's also been mentoring Smith College students for a long time. And I think she's been a fabulous mentor to her sons and her daughter. Kate, because she brings her breadth of experience to women raising money in technology, which is just so important because it has been such a male-dominated space. And Barbara, because through her new young adult novel, which is right here, The Dreamcatcher Codes, she is developing programs to mentor girls. And as I've said to Barbara before, remember, girls become women. So I think it's a great place to start, right? So now I couldn't actually print out the bios that were typed up. So I'm just gonna jump off of my screen for a second, my full screen, and I'm gonna read off of the computer, and my computer and my laptop aren't synced up, so I might not look like I'm looking at you, but I'm here. So Debbie Van Dorn is a financial representative for Wealth Advisory Group, LLC. She focuses on helping women get their financial world in order by offering comprehensive financial plans where the focus is on protecting cash flow, saving the rate of money, preparing for life's events, and managing debt in a healthy way so our clients can reach their goals and live their lifestyle that they desire. Debbie, this is a great thing that you're doing. And as a recent empty nester, she is taking advantage of her newfound freedom to pursue her hobbies, read more books, improve her boating skills, I love that, and travel around this beautiful blue marble. Lisa Indovino, who I went to college with and is one of my best friends I'd say in the universe. And this is so true, she is an out-of-the-box strategist bringing success across digital data, enterprise software, and professional services industries, leveraging extensive experience in alliance partnerships, managed service solutions, and sales strategy. She's a valuable asset for technology companies working on revenue growth and channel strategy. If that means anything to anybody, I'll just give you her other, these are impressive, where she's held leaderships in the past. Currently, she is the channel America's Channel and Alliance leader for Aptio, which is a cloud-based business solutions company. Prior to that, she had leadership positions at Anaplan, Innodata, KPMG, Delta 3, and Lucent Technologies. She holds a BA in economics from Smith and an executive education program in strategic alliances and global marketing from Wharton. She also serves on the selection committee of the Draper Entrepreneurship Competition for Collegiate Women and currently sits on the board of the YMCA. And that's just, the tip of the iceberg for Lisa. Kate, founding partner of the W Fund, a VC investing in underrepresented led tech startups, and CEO of Women 2.0. I think she said 2.0, so you can correct me. She's lived in the tech startup world for over 15 years and has played an active leadership role in women in tech ecosystem for over a decade. Kate has spoken at South by Southwest. That's so cool, Kate. Collision Conference, Fast Companies, Innovation Uncensored, MSNBC, TechCrunch, Al Jazeera America, and she writes for Forbes. And she went to University of Rochester, has an MBA from Emory, and you and I have something in common, at least in our degree in international relations. Yours is from the Fletcher School at Tufts, mine's from NYU. And the best part of her bio is this: when she's not doing all that, she is a very non-professional but adventurous athlete, and equally as non-professional musician, can be found outdoors in any weather, skiing, biking, hiking, sailing, loves a good meal with bubbly, craft beer and good friends, hilariousness and life. She tries hard to read when she can, nonfiction only. Her husband is a startup web developer turned beer guy, and they now live on a hops farm in upstate New York. Welcome, Kate. That's just the best end of a bio I've ever read. And Barbara Newman, also a good friend here in the Berkshires. I live in Western Massachusetts. Barb and I became fast friends when we met many years ago. Also, amazing career. Her career has left an indelible mark on brand culture. She brought her creative and strategic expertise to everything from perfume to peanut butter. While the senior vice president at Gray, she was the senior vice president creative director. Her award-winning work for Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Fruit of the Loom, and Kraft built Slim Fast, Jif, and Kool-Aid into iconic American brands. How about this one? She wrote, everybody's going to know these. Milk, it does your body good. It's magic for Disney. Choosy moms choose Jif. And we fit America for Fruit of the Loom. So if you want to know how creative Barb is, that's all you need to know, is that she's made these brands what they are today through her ability to really, cut through the noise and find the essence. And she's got a consulting company called Brand Visioning. You should check it out. But Barb's current iteration, as I mentioned, is the Dreamcatcher Codes, which is a thrilling young adult fantasy with themes of spirituality, sisterhood, purpose in life, and working together for the greater good. Now I'm going to figure out how to get back to Zoom. And all right, I did it. So welcome. This is just like the panel from heaven. All right, so I want to start with Barb, because I think I said it in the beginning. Girls become women, and I think what you're doing by writing this book and your work with, which was I didn't mention, and Barb will talk about it, with the American Cowgirl, is really so important, to focus on young girls and empowering them at an early age. So, Barb, my question to you is, did you have mentors throughout your career? Like, are you one of the lucky ones?
I really didn't, actually. It was, being a woman in the advertising world was very, very difficult. It was very competitive, and women were not real friendly to women. That's how competitive it was at that time. We were all really striving to be, to go up the ladder. But I did have some men whom I respected greatly. And one of them was the Jim Stengel, who was the CMO of Procter & Gamble for many, many years. And he turned the culture of that company around. Inclusion, diversity before diversity was a thing. And he really began the whole social responsibility and having purpose, giving your brand purpose. So I would say that we grew up together in the business, and we were mirrors for one another. So he was probably the most important influence on me and my life and my work.
Wow, that's great. So, it wasn't a formal mentor, so it was an informal mentor, which I guess, really works too. So, but I love this idea of really formalizing it, because I think that it brings intention to mentoring. So let's talk about the Dreamcatcher codes, right? Like, and what led you to write it, and your interest in having young women as your audience. I mean, I think this is really, really so great.
Okay, so I had been working for a number of years in New York, living in the Berkshires and going back and forth. And I heard an interview on NPR about the American cowgirl. And I was super intrigued because I hadn't thought of these women who are so bold and courageous as really the first feminists in our country. The first woman to vote was a cowgirl from Wyoming. Sandra Day O'Connor grew up on a ranch. Temple Grandin became one of the foremost, just brilliant in the world, in the Western world. So I became very inspired by cowgirl spirit. And there was a soundbite of a 101-year-old cowgirl who taught 36,000 women and girls how to ride. And she used to say to them, you got to saddle your own horse. And when she said that, something moved inside of me. And 3 weeks later, I was in the museum, National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame in Fort Worth. 3 months after that, I was driving cattle in Montana and filming my very first interview with Barbara Van Cleve, who was a renowned photographer of ranch women. And I would raise money and I would shoot and raise money and shoot. And I lost a very big chunk of funding. And I was, well, what's next? What's next for me? I want to embrace cowgirl spirit. So, because I think it's really important, I wanted my 16-year-old daughter to saddle her own horse and her friends to saddle theirs, whether they rode one or not. So my thesis was, you don't have to own a horse to own the spirit. Funding dried up. And I said, I have to tell this story in some other way. And it just it just came at me. Images of 4 very diverse girls coming together to help Mother Earth renew herself. I really care about the environment. I really care about girls' leadership. And this story takes both. And really 2 of the things I'm most passionate about in one place. So I'm super excited, and I'm teaching a course called Codes of the Cowgirl, which takes the 8 principles of cowgirl spirit: saddle your own horse, buck the rules, don't fence me in, be a trailblazer, protect the earth, rein in your fears, rope your dream, and own the spirit. And I'm bringing it to Girl Scouts of America and to high schools and Pace Center for Girls in Florida.
Well, I commend you, and I congratulate you. I know
a lot of work.
The process that you went through to write this book. And what I wanted to tell all the attendees is that we do have one book, so we will be emailing you if you're the lucky winner. It's an amazing tale, and brilliantly written. I call Barbara the word whisperer. she calls herself the brand whisperer, but she just has a beautiful way with the written word.
Thank you so
And I
much. Thank
think
you.
what you were bringing to girls, young girls, and with both the book and your coaching program is essential. And I hope it goes far because the world needs this messaging right now. And I think what I'd like to do is kind of move over to Debbie, because I love that Debbie's, when we chatted a couple of months ago, I really learned that your upbringing on some levels has really influenced kind of your desire to work as a kind of a financial mentor for women, for lack of a better way of explaining what you do. So welcome. Are you muted? I think you're muted.
Thank you, Carole.
Well,
Yeah, like you, when I was younger, I didn't have any mentors at all, and I really wished that I did. Growing up, I guess the best I had as an equivalent of a mentor were some of the adults in my world, which would have been teachers who really cared about giving us a good education, women who were involved in our church community, Girl Scout leaders, very much. We were a family of Girl Scouters, and most of the activities that we did were because we're through Girl Scouts. Things that we wanted to do, we were encouraged to do and to learn and to grow. Having said that, I think I did kind of grow up in a community of women, although there were men there. It's just that they weren't as prevalent in my world as the women were. I can remember growing up, my mom talking with her sisters or her sisters-in-law about all kinds of things, whether it be, how to cure a diaper rash, to the latest recipe that they tried, to, what their plans were. And it was really through seeing them that I saw that women really are a great resource to each other. We're the ones that we confide in each other. We share things very gladly. But the one thing that I saw was that a lot of these women in my world were very disadvantaged. They were not as educated as women are today. They were certainly financially illiterate. And so they made a lot of mistakes unwittingly because they did not know what the consequences of the financial decisions they made were going to have. And this is something that I can see as something completely preventable. And I am certainly someone who believes in prevention rather than cure. Carole, now you're muted.
what do they say? That's the most popular phrase of these last 18 months. You're on mute. Okay, now what was I going to say? I completely forgot. So got stuck on mute. What you're doing, in terms of wanting to, like recognizing financial illiteracy, right, as an opportunity to create, to become a mentor, right, and turn that into your business. And so how, I mean, I guess it's, can you separate like what you do as a financial advisor from being a mentor? Because I feel like that's really what you are doing. You're mentoring these women, with how to, like, as I described you in your bio, how to manage cash flow and debt and all of that kind of stuff. Have you thought of yourself as a mentor in that role, or?
I guess in a sense you are right. It is a way of mentoring. And I think that rule number one in being a mentor is that it's not about you, it's really about the mentee. So it's really getting to what it is that the mentee needs and the mentee wants. And quite often, that's not really about telling them what to do. It's sort of going through a process of questioning and opening very open-ended questions to sort of elicit a lot of thoughts and ideas, and to sort of explore those different ideas, and then weigh up the pros and cons so that the person comes to the decision on their own. Because and sometimes it can be damned if you do, damned if you don't. You tell them to do one thing, they say, oh, you did this, and now it's this, and so now it's all your fault. Okay. But, if they've come to the decision, this is the decision they've made, but at least they're making that decision perhaps with a fuller body of knowledge, of already knowing what the pros and cons could be, what the possible benefits or pitfalls could be before they come to that decision. So I see my role as really sort of a way of facilitating what's there and having the person come to their own conclusions. Because eventually I may be in their life for so many years, I might be in their life for a very short time, but they're going to be with their money permanently.
It's a really great perspective, Debbie. And I think that it's a great way that, a great system that you've created, empowering them, right? It's really about empowerment, right? And I think ultimately that's what mentorship is. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we've put, Emmy has put the contact information for all of our panelists in the chat. And I'm not really monitoring the chat. So Emmy, if there's anything that pops up in the chat, let me know if I need to address that. I'm going to jump over to Kate now. As the CEO of Women 2.0, you are simultaneously leading your team, right? But you're also leading the Women 2.0 community. How do you see these types? I mean, I'm looking at both of these things as you being the grand mentor. Do you see your role differently or the same, or a mix?
That in the context of mentoring, I'm going to answer that first by saying that my philosophy on mentoring includes a lot of different types of support. At the end of the day, mentoring is an input that allows somebody to think about their pathway forward in a different, hopefully more positive way. And so I have taken that into account as I build this huge community and a media property, etc. I've got about 20 years of actually building that type of infrastructure for women in technology and startups. And so within that, it's all about what are the, honestly, sounds so business-like, but honestly, what are the scalable ways that I can actually provide via Women 2.0 mentorship and support for these women. And that comes in a lot of different formats. We focus a lot on our programming and our content that we put out, everything from accelerator programs to the articles that we publish. We just published an awesome one on how founders can use their board members as their own set of advisors and mentors. So, sort of double layer there.
Yeah.
And then I have, through this work, had the just amazing pleasure of being able to have several one-on-one relationships. Most of them have come up naturally, as many of these relationships do. Some of them have been paired through formal mentorship programs. And honestly, it's really the same concept. It's deeper.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising when you get one-to-one. Right. But really at the end of the day, it is about creating that, or helping to recreate and advise that pathway forward for all of these people, individuals or large groups.
Yeah. Well, which, leads me to, am I mute again? No.
You're good.
Okay. Leads me to, a thought that just popped in my head, which is mentorship in the digital age, right? Like, I mean, it's like we've all like, I mean, I've never met, I mean, we've been working together for almost 18 months. I've never met her in person, right? Like, so I view myself as, a mentor of Emmy's, but, we meet twice a week but, do you think that this digital age of mentoring is good, bad, indifferent, combo? Like I miss people.
No, I think it's an awesome question. And this comes down to mentorship being a spectrum. I also like to talk to people again. I sometimes talk to people about micro mentorship, which is very apropos to the digital world. And what that really is again, it is saying, listen, if you do have a 30-minute networking session and your only chance to connect to some of these great people, like what can you actually get out of 30 minutes digitally with someone, or sometimes 10? And it may not be a lifelong relationship, but in 10 minutes, you are getting usually a very genuine, like fully engaged input into your life. And the digital world has opened up the capabilities for people to not be one-on-one. If you do think about one-on-one, that's actually can be somewhat limiting just in terms of who you can connect to, when you can connect to, how you can connect to. So I've actually seen people who have shown up to online networking events or a panel or something like that, that they wouldn't have ever been able to access. And they have these amazing opportunities now to actually be connecting with some really fantastic people. Then they can hop on the phone with them later, that type of thing. So I think it's a really fantastic addition to the mentorship landscape when you can have in-person one-on-one fantastic ones, great, but it just adds to that like beautiful set of activities that one can kind of consider their mentorship universe. So I really value the addition that digital has brought to the opportunities.
Well, I appreciate that perspective, and I think that I agree. I agree that it has expanded our worlds, like and access, right? And, way beyond what we would have had if we were still in just an in-person, having in-person experiences. And I think that once again, the word that keeps coming to mind is intention, right? It's being intentional about what we're doing in regardless of what space we're doing it in. And so I love what you're doing with Women.0. Is that what it is? Sorry, because I keep saying, is it Women 2.0, not 2.0, right?
It's right. Everybody says like every variation of it. I'm just like, you do you. I'm cool with it. It's
okay. Just is like, I just it's really great that you've created not only the community, but that really what you're doing to help fund underrepresented founders is phenomenal. So I'm thank you for that. Lisa, you have been very intentional about mentoring. But I wanted to, before we jumped into that, what was your experience leading up to becoming an intentional mentor?
Sure. So first of all, Carole, thank you for having me. So, I'm very passionate about mentoring. I started working in technology before technology was a sector. And then it kind of became a sector, and I'm still working in technology. And now it's many, many years later, and I look around and there still are not very many women, or when they are hired intentionally because they are women. So, Barbara, I love what you said. You've got to go saddle up your own horse, because I never put it that succinctly, but I actually was working with someone recently, and she was kind of a diversity STEM program that I was part of. And I was trying to help her get a job. And while she was credentialized, PhDs in AI and computer science, obviously my brain felt very small compared to hers, but she really was just expecting the job to come to her. She didn't really understand that she had to really lean in. And as you said, Barbara, saddle up your own horse. So, so really looking around and seeing that opportunity, so many women, we talk about women having a seat at the table, and so many women I've worked with weren't even in the room, forget the table. And then physically, I've worked with women that they would come into the room, and even if they were on the agenda, they'd take the seat in the back of the room. I mean, like, we couldn't even physically get them to the table. And maybe that's because of culture, because of mindset, because of trust, because of courage. So really just seeing how I could help women. And it wasn't really about a position or an opportunity, but to really help them see a path or have the courage. I think, like all of you and like you, Carole, I never really had a mentor. But I was lucky enough to have some sponsors along the way, sponsors for a job or an opportunity or a conversation, but never really a mentor. And I just kind of felt like that's something I can do, especially seeing what the opportunities can be for women in technology. And one of the things I like to say to them is that, working hard for something that you don't love, it's called stress. Working hard for something you do love is called passion. So helping them figure out that passion and helping them figure out what that means to them is really important. And I also try to work with them around the women that I work with or see in whether I'm working with small women in business who are starting up companies or that I meet along the way, is to really understand their own imposter syndrome. I think we all have it. It's real. It's very prevalent in women. And to understand what that imposter syndrome is for them, and really try to show them that you're doing it. You can do it. Lean into it.
Well, bringing up imposter syndrome is really just knocks me off my chair a little bit, because I feel like no, I think it's great, because we live the imposter syndrome, Lisa. Like, I mean, Lisa and I worked I worked on Church Street. I can't remember what street you worked on down in the Wall Street area.
Chambers Street before hip.
Yeah. And we would meet at Century 21 for lunch and buy shoes. But anyway, but I remember we would say to each other, we're faking it, or when are they going to find out I'm a fraud, right? Like, because we didn't have the mentor. And meanwhile, Lisa, in my eyes, could sell ice to the Eskimos, and she was killing it, actually. And yet, lived with the imposter syndrome. So I really applaud you for taking that on.
Thank you. One of the things that I don't think women realize is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help and to learn along the way. And sometimes that learning is not going to the person at the top. It's going to your peers. It's going quite laterally. It's going around you to learn what other people are doing, and to, be open to giving that help, and, be okay with asking for that help. And I think that, sort of giving people permission to talk to each other and to feel confident in maybe not knowing something is, a little bit of a role that I've been able to play in helping women figure out what path they might want to take within a career.
And what have you done, because I know you're active with Smith alums, and also, can you talk a little bit about is it the Draper? About what you're doing there?
So, yeah, sure. So it's an incredible program. Smith College, through their Conway Innovation Center, has a program called the Draper Institute. And in short story, it's a Shark Tank. It's Shark Tank. And it started for companies that were founded by women and being run by women entrepreneurs on the college level. And it started with just Smith students and the immediate 5 colleges around Smith. And now it's women all over the country. Any woman can apply, any woman-led company can apply. And they run a Shark Tank process. And Tim Draper's wife went to Smith, and he's a very successful venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and him and his wife have generously funded this program. So I play a role where I work with the students. I work with them putting together their business plans, and then I work as part of the selection committee to determine who's going to continue to progress. And it's great to see the innovation that young women are having and how they're able to pull in everything from their studies to technology. I used to think that the only people who could start a business were in business. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's great when you hear about these kids these young women who are in the sciences, who are researching all kinds of opportunities, and now they're applying a business model, or they're, near and dear to my heart, they're taking something like their AI and their machine learning, and they're applying it to retail, to, some kind of how do you fit your clothes, and coming up with these ideas. So it's great to be part of that. And I try to give a lot of my time, but I have to say I get way more from being involved with their energy and spirit than I get.
Yeah, which, funny, you just, you segued into a question I was going to ask, and I was going to ask each of you, what do you get out of it? And I thought, like, if we could just freely open, everybody go off of mute, and let's just talk about, like, what do you get out of it? Like, out of mentoring somebody, like, so Lisa, we just heard from you. Barb, like, what do you get out of it?
I get joy. It's just pretty simple. It's pretty basic. It's connection. It's camaraderie. It's feeling like my wisdom matters also.
Oh, it's
And
validating.
if I can give someone, if I can share what I know to help someone feel into their own center and their own strength, I'm really happy.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing what you, what you get from giving? Kate, how about you? Like,
yeah, no, Carole, when you sent around this question, like both Lisa and Barbara, I was literally going to say that there should be no other expectation. And I don't ever want any other expectation except for the amount of gratification that I get out of these relationships. That is why everybody here probably does it, and it is completely without expectation. I also do believe in karma, and so I sort of am in this like future, it's gonna come, I don't need it to come back, but probably will, and hey, great, icing on the cake is literally the extent that I feel about what I need to get out of it. But it's just a really gratifying. I joke sometimes, I'm like, what, if I could just quit everything and sit in a chair and someone could pay me to literally just do this, I'd be the happiest person in the world.
Yeah. Isn't it really cool to be at this point too in our lives and careers where we've acquired the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to impart that on others. I mean, it's just I wouldn't trade it, right? And Deb, how about you? Like, what's what comes to mind is what do you get out of this? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, I have to agree with the others. There is this such sense of joy to give it. We have so much to be grateful for, and the chance to share our abundance just increases the abundance in the world. It goes back to sort of the way that I was raised, that, giving, being the best that we can be, being a positive impact on the society in which we live in. And this is just one expression of it, really.
Awesome. And we do live in an abundant universe. And if everybody believed that, I truly believe we would not have any issues because there is enough to go around. I want to loop in Cecilia, who's a real pioneer in the technology space. And what do you want to add to this amazing discussion?
Well, it's been really interesting to listen to the group discussion about mentorship. And the first thing I felt was sadness that many of you said that you never had a mentor. because I'm one of the lucky people, I guess, who was extremely well mentored throughout my life. In college, I was in an engineering department, and a young assistant professor and I, a woman, she mentored me throughout both undergraduate and well into graduate school. We're still very, very close friends to this day, and it's been many years. I consider her one of the closest people in my life. And really, it wasn't just about career or engineering or what should I do with myself. It really was a lot of how do you balance being a mother, being a wife, being, being a professor, having a career, doing consulting work. And she really, I shared with her a lot, both the joys of it, and also saw some real things that helped me navigate some of the negatives that I ran into as well. I've also, I do believe it is really important to be a mentor to other people in your life, whether it's, in a more formal setting. I have mentored a few students at Hopkins in the engineering departments. But I think informally with your staff, people that you see, maybe they need some advice, or maybe you can just show them some different things or talk to them. And so I've always tried to give back a little bit, and to make sure that I supported the people who worked with me and for me, and made sure that they had a lot of opportunities, even if sometimes those opportunities meant they were going to take a better job somewhere else. I've always been really happy. And I'm also happy to say a lot of those people are still friends with me. So I just think my whole life, and it's not just been women mentors, but I've had men who have been very supportive and very helpful throughout my career. So I benefited a lot from being mentored, and I want to make sure that other people have similar opportunities. So this was a good discussion, and it's really good to see everyone recognize how valuable it is, both for yourself and for the people that you mentor.
Well, thank you, Cecilia. You actually just hit a point, which was, men, right? Here we are, we're in a women in private equity webinar, and we're all women, and the importance of mentoring women. When Lisa and I were chatting last week, we also think that it's super important that that I think men be mentored by women.
Yeah, and I actually have done that quite a bit. And, being in technology, being in sort of high tech fields, that's unfortunately a lot of the people that you work with. And, that's been really, really important.
Yeah. And what does everybody else think about like the whole, because, we've lived in it's still a highly patriarchal society that we are in, very male dominated. And, but we're seeing, all of us like kind of, we're here. Cecilia, Corrine, and I are, we're the, CEO, CFO, and CMO of a publicly traded company. That's great, right? 3 women, rare but that's rare, right? How many of these trios exist? And yet, there's still a lot of boys and young men coming up in the world that we want to like work together with them. I don't want to be like, okay, it's all us, and throw them out. I mean, like, what say us, about like the boys and the men.
Well, I mean, as a mother to both a son and a daughter, I want to raise a strong man. I want, you say girls become women, boys become men, and men need us.
Mhm.
That's really the truth. They really do need us to soften a little bit, to open the heart a little bit in business, and to just be aware of being able to generate a relationship with a woman in business.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I do.
That's very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I agree with you, Barbara. Our sons need to see us doing these things and achieving these things and having an ongoing conversation about what it means to be a man. And I think that's one of the fronts. Someone else had said to me fairly recently as well, is that it's great for women to band together and support each other, but we also need to get the men in on the conversation too, because we need their participation. And that's another way I see that we can move things forward if we get more and more men. And I'm optimistic that that's happening a little bit more frequently than perhaps when we started our careers. But it's still slow, and it's going to take time to really tip the balance.
Yeah. Lisa, you have 2 boys.
I do have 2 boys, and but I actually wanted to not talk about my boys, who are wonderful.
Okay. Okay.
And employed, but I wanted to just say that there's been a number of young men that I have found myself mentoring, advising. So they were all told if they go to college and they incur debt and go to college, they're going to have an easier path than their parents. But maybe they're maybe their first time, first generation college graduate, and they have no idea what to do with this degree. And now they have debt and they just don't know what to do. And I find myself talking to a lot of them. They're not even sure how to, how to go about making those first contacts and getting a job that is not, that is bigger than an hourly wage, that is professional or at least commensurate with the effort they put into getting a degree. And they just don't have those role models. So completely appreciate raising good young men for the world. And I hope I've done that. But I also think there's a lot of young men out there that really need our help because, and young women too, they just don't know where to go, although they think they've equipped themselves, but they're not sure what it looks like.
And I think there's another important group that I guess is sort of has been my focus in mentoring is kids that maybe, they graduate from high school or they get a GED or something, and they really are kind of lost, but they're so bright and they're so, they don't have the opportunities maybe for whatever reasons to go to college, but they really just need help in figuring out where to go so they don't end up in, a mindless low paying hourly wage job. And, those, I've just been lucky to have a few kids like that in my life who, I'm very proud of where they are today.
Nice. That's really great. And Kate, do you have any wisdom on the boys to men front?
I too am a boy mom, 2 boys. We've actually had, I've been doing this work. Oops, sorry. I've been doing this for long enough that many years ago, I sort of realized, and it started out as listen, 50% of the population and the 50% with power really needs to be on board for us to make the progress we need to make. And that developed into a really keen sense of what is often called allyship. And we started doing formal programming in that, and we've now added on sort of empathy training as a piece of that. And so in this context is the idea that really if we can be equipping our boys and our men and everything to just start moving down that path of awareness, self-awareness, empathy, and just and really and allowing them this, the ability to learn what is actually happening in the world, in the state of the world, and all that stuff. Like, that is how we're going to have the next generation of men who are creating the space that we all need. This whole conversation is talking about, and creating the space for women and underrepresented people, and the whole bit. And so I feel very strongly, about that component added to this. And I, like Lisa, I also have some mentees who are cisgender white men, and it's great. Not because of the power dynamic, because they are those types that just say, there is an expert in front of me, and this is valuable and helpful. I want to engage, etc. So I could go on about that. I'll stop there. But yes, all thumbs up.
Great. I mean, it's really nice that we got there, because it's really, I think, an important component, because I also find that, like, you know, once we get so women centric sometimes, that, like, you know, then are we really solving any of the problems without considering the fact that, as you said, Kate, you know, 50% is our men, and they've dominated the power structure. So we've got to, like, you know, do this mentorship, this thing called life, right, with them, and you know, but we need to, like, put it out there, and we need to show the way. And I love the fact that you're doing empathy training, so like, off the charts. And, you know, I mean, most of you all know, like, I mean, I just believe that love will save the world, and that, you know, these webinars are to kind of touch upon that, and, you know, and that we are all doing that in our own way, right? Maybe we're not, like, standing on the rooftop saying, I love you and everybody else, but we're doing our part. Barb has a book that's out in the world, right, with her part. You know, Kate, you know, you're doing it with your community, Women 2.0. And I think that you probably even raised money that men are involved in too.